Welcome to Auto Mundial, the weekly car news and review show, where this time we're checking out the latest supercar from McLaren, the new 750S. Can it possibly be better than the old 720?
We've also got a fast SUV from Mercedes-AMG and the new Audi RS6 Performance. Is it all the car you'd ever need?
Plus a new SUV from Lincoln and the all-new Dacia Duster. Is it still the crossover bargain it once was? Find out later on. Up first, the news.
The European Union has announced new regulations for EVs to better clarify the makeup of their batteries. The so-called battery passports will be linked to the individual car's VIN or QR code, revealing details of the sources and nature of the raw materials used and post-manufacturing specs like capacity and condition. The move, which will come into force in 2027, is part of the new EU battery regulation scheme that requires the battery manufacturer to disclose the carbon footprint of the battery's construction and how many of the materials are recycled and sustainable. The aim is to create more accountability for both car makers and battery manufacturers, who currently have no obligation to reveal any details of the environmental and social impacts of their batteries. This will give consumers a greater insight into the supply chain and carbon footprint created by the new electric car.
In recent months, we've seen Audi steadily improving its existing RS models, the fastest versions of its cars. But with competition packs now available on numerous models, Audi has turned its attention to the mighty RS6. These days, the RS6 Avant almost has the fast big estate market to itself. But now, with no M5 Touring and the new AMG E63 yet to be revealed, what has Audi done to improve the ultimate estate car? Well, it's called the RS6 Performance, and it's now the only version available here in the UK. To ensure it lives up to its new name, Audi has fitted larger turbos to the 4-litre V8, giving it a 30 horsepower boost for a total figure of 621. Torque has been up to 627 foot-pounds too, resulting in a 0-62 time of just 3.4 seconds, 0.2 of a second quicker than the old car. The car is slightly lighter too, with much of the engine bay insulation binned. It's still no Lotus Elise though, weighing in at over 2 tons. Otherwise, the spec sheet is pretty much unchanged. It still comes with a dual-clutch 8-speed transmission and some enormous carbon ceramic brakes. Standard equipment now includes a park assist pack with a 360 camera and the RS Dynamic Pack. This adds a Quattro Sport differential on the rear axle and puts the top speed limiter up to 174 miles per hour. There are also some new colour and interior options, and some new graphics on the virtual cockpit, which now features shift lights and a traffic light system for the launch control. The RS6 then is now both lighter and faster, proving as if it were ever in doubt that this is still the ultimate everyday performance car.
There are many cars that buyers and dealers alike will describe as cheap and cheerful. In many cases, that's a line to distract from poor build quality and lackluster performance, but in the case of the Dacia Duster, the phrase seems apt. Here is a no-nonsense, affordable crossover 4x4 that looks good, drives well enough, and is as tough as old boots. Now though, there's a new one, and it seems that Dacia is getting posh. Here it is, the new Duster. Doesn't it look good? And no, this isn't some pre-production concept. This is the production car, number plates and all. See one of these drive past and cheap and cheerful will be the last thing you think. The premium new look is continued inside, where you find one of the coolest interiors we've seen in ages. Taking a leaf from the Suzuki Jimny's book, the chunky dashboard is only made of cheap, hard-wearing plastic, but that suits the Duster's go-anywhere image. There's a built-in phone holder, some trendy copper-coloured trim bits, and a big infotainment screen if you opt for one of the higher trim levels. Standard kit includes cruise control, parking sensors, and Bluetooth. The new Duster is built on the same platform as the Renault Clio, meaning a similar selection of engines. There's a 1.2 mild hybrid with 128 brake horsepower, or a 1.6 full hybrid with 138, which comes with an EV driving mode. Driving modes in a Dacia, oh yes, and there's more. The 4x4 terrain control system distributes power between the front and rear depending on the surface you're driving on, while an eco mode lets you maximise fuel economy. Prices for the funky new Dacia have yet to be released, but we expect it to have a starting price of somewhere between £17,000 and £18,000 when it goes on sale in the UK in the second half of 2024.
For over a century, Lincoln has been producing some of America's most desirable vehicles, focusing on comfort rather than speed. Models such as the Continental were commended for interior styling and ride quality. Today, though, with the Continental ceasing production in 2020, Lincoln's latest luxury models aren't coupes or sedans, but SUVs. One such model is the Nautilus, which in its current guise has been with us since 2019, replacing its predecessor, the MKX. This is the latest one, and unlike the usual yearly update we see to American models, this one is not insignificant. In fact, Lincoln is calling this the second generation of the Nautilus. Entry-level models still get the same 250 horsepower turbocharged 2-litre inline-4, but this can now be paired with a 100 kilowatt electric motor for a total output of 310 horsepower, a $1,500 option. The old V6 is gone, and with less power and more weight, we expect the new car will struggle to match the 5.9-second 0-60 time of the old one. However, performance is not the main reason you buy a Lincoln, that would be the interior. And we have to say the cabin on the new Nautilus is magnificent. Completely redesigned from the ground up, it gets more leather, a 28-speaker audio system, and optional 24-way adjustable seats. Opt for the Rejuvenate pack and you get what Lincoln is calling a spa-in-a-car feature that alters interior lighting, seat position, screen visuals and massage seats. And the luxury doesn't stop there. The armrests contain 3 scent cartridges that release aromas as you drive along. Oh, and you can't miss the massive 48-inch screen that stretches across the dashboard from A-pillar to A-pillar, displaying navigation, a clock, stereo settings, and even a view of the upcoming weather forecast. And if that wasn't enough, there's also an 11-inch screen mounted to the centre of the dash. Naturally, the Nautilus comes with wireless Android Auto and Apple CarPlay, as well as built-in Alexa for voice commands. In the back, the latest Nautilus sacrifices some cargo space for more legroom, although with a capacity of almost 1,000 litres, it's not what we Europeans would call pokey. Entry-level cars start at around $50,000, while the pick of the bunch is the Reserve Hybrid model at just over $57,000. This high-spec car gets 22-inch wheels, body-coloured cladding, and a black-painted roof, along with all the toys you really want. What else is there out there in this very crowded segment of the market?
Well, outside your usual suspects from Land Rover, BMW and Mercedes, there is this, the Genesis GV80. Like Lincoln is to Ford, Genesis is Hyundai's luxury sub-brand, and like the Nautilus, its interior is one of the best in class, with leather-lined seats and quality materials scattered throughout the cabin. The switchgear is knurled as you'd get in a Bentley, while the widescreen infotainment system looks as crisp and up-to-date as anything from European and American rivals. While the GV80 doesn't feature any hybrid options in its model lineup, The base-spec turbocharged 2.5-litre inline-4 puts out a healthy 300 horsepower, while a V6 model is also available with 375 horsepower. An 8-speed automatic gearbox and all-wheel drive are standard across the range. Plus, the GV80 comes with the option of a third row of seating, which, while handy, can only really be used for small children.
On paper, there's not much separating these two cars. Choosing one is a matter of personal taste, but for us it's the Lincoln, with its party piece interior, the one to go for. After the break, the latest V8 supercar from McLaren. Coming up, McLaren's jaw-dropping 750S, but first...
If you want a car that will do 180 miles per hour, hold all the luggage you could ever want, and do a bit of mild off-roading from time to time, the performance SUV is your go-to category. And for the past few years, money hasn't got you much better than this, the Jaguar F-Pace SVR. Despite Jag's commitment to electrification from 2025, the SVR still gets JLR's shouty 5-litre supercharged V8 that's slowly being phased out in favour of turbocharged BMW engines. It's got 542 bhp, 516 pound-feet of torque, and is good for 0 to 62 miles per hour in 4 seconds flat. But the performance SUV class has long been dominated by the Germans, and none more so than Mercedes. Its AMG badge has adorned everything from crossovers to G-Wagons, and now it's the turn of its GL range. This is the 2025 Mercedes-AMG GLC 63 SE Performance, and you'll surely be keen to hear about its twin-turbo V8 and thunderous soundtrack. But no, like the new C63 launched last summer, Merc has ditched the V8 in favour of the more eco-friendly 2-litre turbo 4-cylinder that you get in the A45 and a 400-volt electric motor. Yes, that's right. The GLC 63 is now a plug-in hybrid. And a fast one too, with a combined output of 671 bhp from the 4-pot and the electric motor. The GLC is not only the most powerful in its category, but also has 69 horsepower more than you've got in the old car. Despite the jump in power, the GLC is much more efficient than the old car, with a quoted WLTP figure of 37.7 miles per gallon compared to 22.7 of its predecessor. It's faster as well, hitting 62 miles per hour from rest in 4 seconds. Plus, thanks to its onboard 4.8 kilowatt-hour battery, it can run on electrification alone for up to 7.5 miles. On the outside, the GLC gets the staple AMG styling, a Pan-Americana grille, aggressive bumpers and swollen wheel arches. At the back, there's a large roof spoiler and 4 big tailpipes, which right checks the 2-litre motor can't cash. On the inside, the cabin gets an AMG steering wheel, new graphics, sports seats and even a data logger, should you want to take your family SUV on track. It also gets Mercedes' excellent MBUX infotainment system, which has various new functions to keep it in line with other models in the Merc range. However, it is not all good news. Due to the hybrid system, the boot is about 1/3 smaller than the old car, and by tipping the scales at more than 2.2 tonnes, the GLC 63 is now 300 kilos heavier than the old model. It's also eye-wateringly expensive. Even a base spec model will set you back the best part of £110,000, over double that of an entry-level GLC. Opt for the Edition 1 model and that price balloons to over £130,000. For that money, you could get an Audi R8 Supercar.
More pressingly, it's a lot more expensive than a lot of other cars in this class. And in this crowded segment of the market, it's not just the Brits the Merc has to beat, as the Italians have also had a go with this, the Alfa Romeo Stelvio Quadrifoglio. Like the Jag, the Stelvio is definitely a looker, with wider wheels and a lower, more aggressive stance. Using much of the chassis from the Giulia saloon and the same twin-turbo V6, the Stelvio puts out 503 brake horsepower. It's down on power versus the F-Pace and the GLC then, but thanks to its lower weight it beats them both to 62 in just 3.8 seconds. And twist the Alfa's DNA dial to dynamic and the whole car feels immediately alive. It feels every bit as lively and energetic as the Giulia, with rapid acceleration and incredible grip.
For us then, the GLC 63 misses the mark this time round. It may be more powerful and kinder on fuel, but the lack of the signature AMG V8 and high asking price will certainly discourage some buyers. Therefore, if you're after an SUV with the performance of a super saloon, the Jag or Alfa should definitely be on your shortlist.
McLaren Automotive, as we know it, only came into existence 14 years ago. But in that time it has put its name to a remarkable selection of V8 powered supercars, rivaling the best from Italy and beyond. Now though, with the revered 720S getting on a bit, McLaren has revealed its replacement. Here it is, and yep, it does look almost exactly the same. It's called the 750S, and it's more of an evolution of the old car rather than a completely new model. But while it may look as though the designers had the day off when it came to restyling it, McLaren is adamant that 30% of it is new. The car's nose is now slightly lower, with a longer splitter to improve aerodynamics. The so-called eye sockets that house the headlights are now smaller, and there are some new vents and intakes on the car's flanks to aid cooling. The changes at the back are a bit more obvious, albeit only to real nerds. There's some new mesh and a reprofiled deck lid that funnels air towards the active rear wing. There's a new centre exit exhaust too that has been tuned to provide more performance, as well as a more exciting noise. That wing has a 20% larger surface area than before, but weighs less. And that sort of sums up the approach the engineers have taken to this car. Every little bit has been tweaked and revised. All little changes that add up to an entirely new car, or so McLaren says. The 4-litre twin-turbo V8 remains, but tuned for more power. The 750S produces, you guessed it, 740 brake horsepower. We'll let them off though, as that's a big chunk more than you got in the old model, and about as much as any other series production supercar right now. Naturally, the performance is totally outrageous. 0 to 62 takes just 2.8 seconds, and 0 to 124 is a mind-altering 7.2 onto a top speed of 206. One of McLaren's key areas of focus was the proactive chassis control system. This clever bit of engineering does away with anti-roll bars and has been a staple on all modern McLarens since the 12C, allowing for a unique blend of ride comfort and body control. In the 750S, the rear suspension has been stiffened, while at the front it's been softened, in the hopes of making the car more fun to drive without ruining the ride quality. Elsewhere in the chassis, the front track width has been increased, and the excellent hydraulic power steering has been upgraded with a new pump and faster ratios. Carbon ceramic brakes are fitted as standard, but there's now the option to go even more extreme with some heavy-duty track-ready discs. Similar to the setup found on the Senna hypercar, these are designed specifically for sustained use on track, so an option you most likely won't need if you plan on sticking to the roads. If you tick all of the lightweight options though, the 750S comes in at well under 1300 kilos dry, but even in its standard form, it's 30 kilos lighter than its predecessor. There's a convertible version too, and even that has managed to keep its weight down thanks to the car's carbon fibre tub, which minimises the need for extra strengthening like you get on most drop-top supercars. In fact, it's less than 50 kilos heavier than the coupe, and it allows you to revel in the noise of that wonderful V8 with near enough identical performance figures. So then, is this the supercar to go for? Well, it's definitely right up there with the best of them. The new Maserati MC20 is a worthy adversary, and of course there are plenty of Ferraris to choose from too. The McLaren though continues the legacy of the 12C, 720S and all the other great V8 McLarens. With smaller V6s and hybrid powertrains now becoming the norm at the top end of the motoring food chain, the 750S is a reminder that these cars need to be enjoyed while they still can be.
Join us again next week on Auto Mundial as we check out Hyundai's all-new electric hot hatch, the Ioniq 5N. Don't miss it.